What if the Avengers don't save the multiverse? Because saving it means deciding which of them deserves to exist. I kept thinking about the way multiverse stories usually end. There's always a massive explosion, a collapsing sky, a beam of light swallowing galaxies. But the more I looked at the hints, the more I felt this story won't end with destruction from outside. It ends with decay from inside. I imagine the first signs being almost invisible. A street in New York suddenly has architecture from another world stitched into it. A taxi driver remembers raising a daughter he never had. A child recognizes two different versions of the same hero and calls both of them by name. Reality doesn't shatter, it overlaps. The problem isn't chaos yet. It's confusion. People begin living multiple lives simultaneously in their own heads. I think the Avengers initially treat it like a cosmic storm, something they can push back with science and power. But the horror grows quieter. A hero walks into their base and meets themselves already standing there. Not a clone, not a shapeshifter, a genuine version with the same memories until one moment where their lives diverge forever. The moment variants start meeting each other, the rules collapse. I picture 3 or 4 versions of the same Avenger arguing about decisions that never happened in the same world. One lost everything and became ruthless. One never fought and stayed hopeful. One failed and carries unbearable guilt. Suddenly, morality stops being universal. Each version is living proof that a different choice created a different person, and the world reacts to their presence. Buildings flicker between designs. Weather changes mid-sentence. Languages merge. I think scientists in the story discover something terrifying. Universes aren't colliding randomly. They're competing. Each reality is rewriting physics to assert dominance. Existence itself is behaving like survival instinct. The multiverse is not dying. It is fighting for singular identity. Every additional variation destabilizes everything else. The more heroes exist, the less reality agrees on what history actually is. The audience slowly realizes this isn't a war between worlds. It's a war between possibilities. Then Dr. Doom enters the story, not as a conqueror, but as someone who already understands the disease. I imagine him calm while everyone panics, because he has seen the pattern before the Avengers did. He doesn't attack cities. He observes them melting into each other. His theory is brutal but logical. Infinite variations create infinite contradictions, and contradictions collapse existence. In his mind, the multiverse is a mistake that reached critical mass. He doesn't want to destroy reality, he wants to finalize it. When he explains this, I think it won't feel like villain speech. It will feel like uncomfortable math. If two identical people both have rightful claim to one timeline, the timeline fractures. If billions do, stability becomes impossible. He proposes a horrifying solution. One prime continuity must overwrite the rest. Everything else must be erased for existence to stop bleeding. And the scariest part is the heroes realize his calculations match their own readings. That's where the emotional fracture begins. I imagine the Avengers splitting not because of ideology, but because of memory. Each version of them remembers saving worlds. Each believes their timeline matters. One hero might come from a reality where humanity finally achieved peace. Another comes from a world still rebuilding after catastrophe. If only one universe survives, then choosing is equivalent to murdering entire civilizations. I think some heroes become protective of their own reality, almost territorial, not out of selfishness but love. Their families exist there. Their sacrifices happen there. This transforms allies into rivals. The battlefield becomes philosophical instead of physical. Nobody wants to kill another Avenger. Yet every universe is subconsciously overwriting others to survive. Even standing near each other destabilizes space. And then comes the worst revelation. The multiverse isn't collapsing because of natural imbalance. It's collapsing specifically around them. I started connecting the dots when imagining the data patterns. Areas without heroes remain stable longer. Places with multiple variants degrade faster. The common factor is the existence of heroic anomalies across timelines. Heroes bend probability repeatedly, surviving impossible events. Multiply that across infinite realities and physics loses consistency. The Avengers are anchors pulling incompatible histories together. Their existence proves that different outcomes must all be true at once, and reality cannot sustain that contradiction. Doom doesn't cause the collapse. He understands it. The Avengers are not defenders anymore. They are the source of instability. The more they try to fix the damage, the worse the overlap becomes. Their presence accelerates the bleed. This flips the entire emotional core. The question stops being, how do we stop the villain? And becomes, what if we are the cosmic error? Act 2. In my head becomes unbearably human. Meetings replace battles. Variants argue over whose world deserves tomorrow. One version sacrificed everything to save billions. Another never had to make that choice. Who has the moral right to continue existing? Some heroes volunteer their universe for deletion, believing others had harder journeys. Others refuse because they protect innocent lives, not pride. The team fractures into belief systems. Doom watches because the decision must come from them. If he chooses, it becomes tyranny. If they choose, it becomes responsibility. I think this is where audiences feel real discomfort. There is no correct answer. Every timeline contains people who think they are the original. Everyone is right. Everyone is also replaceable. The heroes finally understand that the multiverse doesn't need a champion. It needs fewer possibilities. The final plan forms slowly and painfully. They calculate that even selecting one universe won't stabilize reality if variants still exist. The contradiction remains as long as multiple versions of the same individuals survive across memory space. Stability requires singular identity, not just one timeline, one set of heroes tied to it. That means some versions must erase themselves permanently from existence, not die heroically, but remove every trace they ever were. No statues, no records, no memory. True deletion. I imagine the silence when they realize sacrifice now means being forgotten. They won't be martyrs. History won't honor them. The world they save will never know they lived. This is the purest form of heroism because it removes reward. They choose who remains not based on strength, but on which timeline has the highest chance of long-term peace. The climax isn't a giant battle, but a series of farewells between identical souls. Each hero faces another version and decides which life continues. Conversations replace punches. Some step back willingly. Some struggle but accept. Doom maintains the boundary holding realities apart while they finalize choices, acting almost like a grim guardian instead of an enemy. The moment each variant erases themselves, the environment stabilizes slightly. Skies stop flickering. Memories settle into single histories. The multiverse quiets. By the end, only one consistent group remains, not necessarily the strongest, just the most compatible with a stable future. Doom disappears because his purpose ends. He didn't want rule, he wanted order. The war against infinity ends not with victory, but subtraction. The ending I picture feels peaceful, but heavy. A clean universe wakes up without scars. Cities are whole. People live ordinary days. The remaining heroes walk among them and notice nobody recognizes them. News archives contain no mention of battles they remember. Friends they loved never met them. Their sacrifices were removed along with the variants. Stability required a world untouched by constant miracles. They saved existence by removing the idea of heroes from history. And I think the last emotional beat is them accepting anonymity. Understanding heroism was never about being known, only about choosing others over themselves, even if those others forget completely. I started thinking about this when Marvel kept showing us destruction on a scale that Earth simply cannot survive. Every time the stakes rise, the heroes somehow manage to protect the planet, but Doomsday is not a villain you fight in a city or even a galaxy. He is a reality breaker. And if a character can rewrite existence, then logically, the battlefield cannot be normal existence. The moment I connected this idea, I remembered a place Marvel already introduced. A space where timelines die, where physics collapses, and where even gods feel lost. Not a planet. Not a dimension. A graveyard of realities. Suddenly the trailers, leaks, and cosmic hints stopped feeling random. They started feeling like setup. Marvel has been quietly preparing us for a location where power levels no longer matter. A place where the strongest Avengers would feel weaker than ordinary humans. Because in a broken reality, strength has no meaning. Think about Doomsday's power set carefully. He isn't just stronger than Thor or smarter than Tony ever was. His core ability is control over structure. Structure of matter, structure of time, structure of probability. That means the moment he stands on Earth, Earth loses. Not damaged, not invaded, gone. Marvel knows this. The writers know audiences won't accept another city destruction finale. The escalation has to be conceptual now. And the only way heroes can fight a god is by removing the world he can dominate. So instead of defending reality, they drag him somewhere reality barely exists. That changes everything. Now the battle is not about saving buildings. It becomes about survival inside chaos itself. A battlefield where gravity breaks, where distance means nothing, and where a punch might land before it is thrown. That is the kind of arena required to visually and narratively justify Doomsday's threat. I started connecting this with the TVA lore. Marvel already showed us a location where timelines are dumped after being erased. The Void from Loki. In that place, objects from every era coexist without logic. A ship from the future rests beside ruins from ancient history. Creatures survive without ecosystems. Time doesn't flow forward. It piles up. Now imagine bringing Avengers into that environment. Their training relies on cause and effect. Cap reads movement. Strange predicts outcomes. Iron Man calculates trajectories. But in the Void, cause and effect don't exist consistently. A shield thrown might return before it leaves the hand. A spell cast might age backward. Suddenly, every Avenger loses the advantage they always depend on. Predictability. That is the only believable way to make the audience feel they truly have no control this time. And this is where Doomsday becomes terrifying rather than just powerful. In normal space, even cosmic beings obey certain boundaries. But a collapsed reality is different. It is unfinished existence. Think of it as wet paint of the universe. Whoever touches it can reshape it. Heroes will struggle to even stand, while Doomsday would thrive because his abilities manipulate structure directly. He wouldn't be limited by physics. He would define physics locally. That means the battlefield itself becomes his weapon. The ground turns into vertical sky. Distance stretches infinitely. The Avengers wouldn't just be fighting him. They would be fighting the environment he is actively rewriting. For the first time in MCU history, the heroes would not simply be overpowered. They would be irrelevant inside his domain. Now consider why Marvel would choose this narratively. Every previous finale gave the audience a safe anchor. New York, Wakanda, Titan, Earth itself. You always knew what was at risk. But Doomsday requires emotional disorientation. If the audience feels lost, they connect with the character's fear. A broken reality accomplishes that perfectly. Viewers cannot predict geography. Characters cannot retreat home. There is no backup army arriving dramatically from portals. Even portals themselves may not work. So the final battle stops being spectacle and becomes psychological horror. Imagine Spider-Man trying to swing and the web attaches to a fragment of yesterday that dissolves. Imagine Hulk jumping and never landing until gravity remembers him. That vulnerability is the storytelling purpose of such a location. I also noticed something else. Marvel keeps introducing characters connected to time, probability, and multiversal awareness. They are not just additions, they are survival tools for this exact scenario. In a collapsed reality, physical strength is secondary. Awareness becomes power. The only heroes who could function there are ones who understand paradox. That means the emotional core of the battle shifts from punching to comprehension. The Avengers won't win by overpowering Doomsday. They will win by understanding the rules of a place that technically has no rules. And that's where Loki's past experiences matter. Someone who has already survived the void knows its hidden logic, that nothing truly disappears there. It only stops belonging anywhere. Here is the deeper theory I started forming. The void isn't empty. It's accumulation. Every erased timeline still exists as fragments. That means infinite alternate versions of technology, magic, and even heroes exist scattered there. The Avengers may enter powerless, but the environment contains echoes of their strongest possibilities. Broken shields, abandoned armors, forgotten relics. Instead of arriving prepared, they scavenge destiny itself. Each Avenger rebuilding themselves using pieces of lives they never lived. Narratively, that turns the battlefield into a metaphor. They fight not only Doomsday, but every failure across the multiverse. They literally assemble hope from discarded futures. Doomsday, however, would see this differently. To him, the void is raw material. He wouldn't attack the Avengers first. He would reshape the landscape, merging fragments of timelines into a new controlled reality. The battle becomes a race. Can the heroes stabilize existence before he finishes defining it? Every second inside the void would allow him to gain more godlike authority. The longer they fight traditionally, the stronger he becomes. That forces the Avengers to abandon combat instincts entirely. Strategy changes from defeating him to preventing him from finishing creation. They are no longer warriors. They become interruptions in a cosmic process. This also explains why they might feel powerless for the first time. Not weak or irrelevant. Their identities depend on protecting people, but the void contains no civilians, no planet, no immediate moral objective. Without something to save, heroes confront purpose itself, and that is psychologically devastating. Characters like Thor or Captain Marvel derive strength from responsibility. Remove the world, remove their certainty. Meanwhile, Doomsday stands confident because destruction is his purpose. The environment favors conviction over heroism. The Avengers must rediscover why they fight when nothing familiar remains to fight for. I think the climax wouldn't be a final punch at all. It would be a realization. In a place where reality is undefined, belief becomes structure. The Avengers stop trying to survive the void and instead collectively define a single consistent outcome. Not physically overpowering Doomsday, but locking him into one stable timeline he cannot escape, essentially imprisoning a god inside certainty. The paradox is beautiful. Chaos defeats order everywhere else, but here, order defeats chaos. They don't kill him, they anchor him. That would visually look like the battlefield stabilizing piece by piece as they synchronize intent. Gravity returns, distance normalizes, light behaves. And as rules solidify, Doomsday weakens because his dominance relied on instability. The more the Avengers agree on reality, the less control he has over shaping it. Unity becomes literal power, not symbolic. Functional. Their teamwork finally manifests as physics itself choosing them over him. So the final battle location being a collapsed reality isn't just spectacle. It's necessary for the story Marvel wants to tell, that the Avengers win not because they are stronger, but because they believe in a shared universe worth existing. A place where nothing belongs becomes the place where everything is decided. If that theory fascinated you, like, share, and subscribe. I'll keep breaking these mysteries down with you.